After seeing TJ Watt get paid by the Pittsburgh Steelers, there's another veteran on the Pittsburgh Steelers that is now applying pressure, and that is defensive tackle Cam Heyward. He wants his money, and he's willing to miss games. We're going to talk about that. And then the 49ers set a target date for the return of wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk. Plus, we have a little bit more of an update for a couple more big time players around the NFL and when they are expected to return. We're going to talk about it, break it all down. But you got to hear the music first.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back into another episode of NFL Central, your number one spot for everything NFL. I'm your host here, Bobby, and I'm holding it down on another daily episode. So if you're tuned in, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe for your boy. But hey, around the NFL, we had a great weekend of preseason football. Talked a lot about the rookies, but hey, as we get closer and closer into the actual NFL season, there's still some people out there that want their money. We know that Trey Hendrickson is one of those guys that still want their money. Michael Parsons is a guy that wants his money. But now, defensive tackle Cam Heyward for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's applying pressure to the Pittsburgh Steelers and saying that he wants a raise. I have not seen anything that has said how much money he wants, but we do know that he just wants a raise. 36-year-old, seven-time Pro Bowler, definitely one of the best Steelers, in the last few decade or so, playing a very long time over there with the Pittsburgh Steelers and being a constant player for the franchise. My man's, 36 years old, but the crazy thing is he is not that contract that he's currently on. It doesn't expire until after the 2026 season. So I'm wondering how is all this going to work out, simply because though he's not making a lot of money on a annual basis for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you are up there in age, my guy. 36 years old. This is not like a Trey Hendrickson where you're 31 and you're still, you crossed that 30-year mark, but you still have a few years before people start considering asking themselves, is this guy really still gonna have the juice available to help our defensive front? I would say that, it's definitely something that the Pittsburgh Steelers are gonna have to talk to him about. They're definitely gonna have to come to terms with something, because at 36 years old, and he still has another this season and next season, I would imagine he'll probably be about 37, 38 years old, if we tracking that correctly, and seeing what's the hold up. You know what I'm saying? I understand that you seen DK Metcalf get his money. You just seen TJ Watt get his money. You seen the guys bring on guys like Aaron Rodgers. They trade for Jalen Ramsey. So you seeing a number of guys going to get some money. Is it just a thing to say, hey, now I want my money now? It's very, very interesting, to say the least, simply because, again, this guy's 36 years old. I know he probably wants just a little bump of a pay raise before he ultimately calls it a career. I don't know how much longer he intends to play, but at 36 years old and a defensive tackle going through the hards and all the battles in the NFL in the trenches is a lot different than a guy that's going to be playing quarterback and is playing at 41 years old like Aaron Rodgers. So it's going to be I'm going to be intrigued to see where this go, because he's also coming out there and applying pressure to the Pittsburgh Steelers, saying that he's willing to miss games. Now, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, do you look at Cam Heyward and say, okay, go ahead and miss a couple games? We signed and we drafted a young defensive tackle who could, quote unquote, be your replacement once you retire anyway, and Derek Harmon out of Oregon. And they sent a couple more defensive tackles. I know they're not going to be at the same level as a Cam Heyward as we previously seen, but how much are the Pittsburgh Steelers going to take that into account to say, hey, look, man, you're signed for this year, next year. So for the next 2 years, and you want a pay raise, how much is this pay raise? I know that the Pittsburgh Steelers still have a little bit of money of salary cap that they can go out there and distribute to Cam Heyward. But again, it's definitely a dicey situation. And do you want to go out there and force his hand? Because once those fines and everything start piling up, yeah, guys are not going to leave that much money on the table, at least in my opinion, especially at this age of his career. He's not a young Michael Parsons at 26 years old. He's actually 10 years older than a Michael Parsons. So, looking at that situation, you're saying, hey, are you really willing to leave money on the table, or is this a ploy to try to force our hand to give you a raise? And how much is that raise? I don't necessarily know. I'm pretty sure he's not looking to become the highest defensive tackle in the league, but how much money are you looking for Cam Heyward? So the Pittsburgh Steelers, for all the stuff that we've placed on them, for all the discussions that we had this offseason, the consistent theme is Aaron Rodgers and money. That's it. The consistent thing is Aaron Rodgers and money. Because before they even traded George Pickens, that was a thing that was, being questioned. What is going to happen with George Pickens after this season if he was still on the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because they was going to have to pay him. So that's money. You talking about DK Metcalf, re-upping on him and extending him out. That's money. You talking about TJ Watt saying, to hell with y'all. I know I'm the best player on this team, but I want my money. And then Aaron Rodgers, y'all waiting all day for him. And at the same damn time, he want his money. It ain't much money. You know what I'm saying? It's just a 1-year deal at a really cheap contract, to be honest with you. But he got his money. And they waited on their guy and they got their guy. So we'll see what happens with that. But I ultimately think that if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, look, I love you, Cam Heyward. We want to take care of our own. But what kind of raise are you looking for? Because at the end of the day, hey, you still under contract, bro. At the end of the day, it's not a situation where you look at it, Cam Heyward as a TJ Watt. I understand that he wants to wear one helmet. You know what I'm saying? He wants to be a Steeler for life. And we want you to be a Steeler for life as well, but you still have money on this contract that you're currently on. How much of a raise are you looking for? And where can we, find some common ground? Hey, it is what it is. Guys have the right to go out there and do what they want to do. But hey, at the end of the day, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they do not have to budge. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comments all about that when it comes down to defensive tackle Cam Heyward. Now let's move on and talk about the San Francisco 49ers setting a target date for wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk's return. From what as it's coming out now, it's looking like that the anticipated date for wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk is October 12th, when the 49ers face off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At least that's how it looks going by the schedule. Kyle Shanahan talked a lot about it, saying that they don't want to rush him back. They want to allow him some more time to get back. It's going to be kind of crazy simply because the San Francisco 49ers, they're still dealing with a lot of injuries this upcoming season. And I know that they let go guys like Drake Greenlaw, Hufanga is no longer with the squad. They got rid of Hargrave. It's a lot of people that have a lot of departures on the defensive side of the ball, and their attempt to get younger on that side of the ball, but also add young pass catchers on the offensive side of the ball for guys like Brock Purdy. So with Brandon Aiyuk having his target date set for October 12th, the 49ers still have games to play. So it's going to be interesting to see how does he utilize, that's Kyle Shanahan I'm talking about, how does he utilize his young talent to go out there to where you can be able to have a steady few weeks, not necessarily winning all the games, but making sure you don't dig yourself into a deep, deep hole and then have to climb out of that. We've seen teams climb out of the hole and make the playoffs, but we also seen teams climb out of the hole, stand by the hole, and get kicked back in the hole, and you don't make the playoffs, i.e. the Cincinnati Bengals last season with the slow start. They go out there, they go on a nice hot streak, they win a lot of games to end the season, and they still didn't make the damn playoffs, even with Joe Burrow throwing, I think he definitely threw over 4,000 yards. And I think it was close to, if not over 4,500 yards. Excuse me on that. I don't have the stats right here looking at it. But he had a hell of a season. And that was literally, I believe last year was his best statistical season, and he still didn't find himself in the playoffs. A lot of things went into that defense, number of things starting off slow. So the same thing is going to be said for the San Francisco 49ers. I keep it honest with you. I'm not a believer in the 49ers this season making the playoffs. That's just me. I'll be willing to be wrong. But if we're looking at the NFC West, I have the Rams above them. And I have the Arizona Cardinals above the San Francisco 49ers. If we're talking about how that division, the NFC West, is going to line up, I think that the Rams are just better. And I think that the Arizona Cardinals have made massive improvements. And we'll see what Kyler Murray can do. I know, and it's not a lot of stock that people still have in Kyler Murray, but I think that team is very well improved. On the offensive side of the ball, they got weapons up in there. You got a consistent run game. And then you went out there in this year draft and you addressed the defense that needed a lot of help, and you got a lot of good pieces on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not ready to give the San Francisco 49ers the nudge simply because I think that they lost a lot on the defensive side of the ball, and they lost some weapons on the offensive side of the ball and have questions about Ricky Pearsall. You have questions about Brandon Aiyuk's return. You have questions about a couple wide receivers, and you definitely have questions about Christian McCaffrey's health. That's some things that you have to be concerned about when you talk about the San Francisco 49ers. But I'm glad that they're taking their time with this Brandon Aiyuk situation. And I say that, hey, young fella, go out there and get healthy. And once you get back on the field, go ball out. That's all we hoping for. Go ball out. I ain't no hater. I just have my beliefs on whether things are going to, pan out at the end of the season. But hey, some other updates in around the NFL is that Matthew Stafford yesterday still did not practice. He still did not practice. Remember that we reported over here on NFL Central that he had an aggravated disc in his back. And they said that my man was in street clothes yesterday, Monday, and that he has been chilling in a vehicle that is a red light therapy chamber. Never heard of it. If you heard of it, let me know what it is and what it entails. Literally had to do a search on this. I was not familiar with this type of thing, but he's showing up to practice, not getting on the practice field. He's entering the vehicle that is a red light therapy chamber. So it's starting to bring up some concerns about my man's Matthew Stafford in this upcoming season. Again, I do think that Jimmy Garoppolo can hold it down for a couple games, but you need Matthew Stafford out there on the field. And it's probably a little premature and a little early. I know Matthew Stafford read up for like another 2 years so before he call it quits. If this continues, I'm anticipating retirement by the end of this season. That's just me. I could be absolutely wrong. And I hope that we see if he does stay another year in next year's draft. I think that the Los Angeles Rams will draft their quarterback to sit behind Matthew Stafford. Just a way too early prediction out there for you. Again, way too early prediction for the Los Angeles Rams. If this health thing continues with Matthew Stafford, I can see the Los Angeles Rams drafting their replacement quarterback in 2026 NFL draft and potentially seeing Matthew Stafford call it a career with retirement. But hey, the last thing before we get up out of here, we got to talk about Eagles standout guard Landon Dickerson. He did go down at a practice to where a lot of people were on edge and very, very concerned about his health and feeling as if, hey, this guy could potentially be done for the season. Good news is he's not done for the season, but you take it with a grain of salt because he will be missing at least until week 1 is what the anticipation is. He went out there, he had a small procedure on his right knee, what the Eagles are calling week to week. But the goal is to have him start the season on September 4th. I always say, you don't have to have guys start week 1, bro. You don't. It's a long season. You don't have to have guys start week 1. You don't. Guys can take a little bit more time. Obviously, you want all hands on deck to kick off the season. It's a great timeline to set. But again, we will keep you guys updated on that once we hear about it, once we get some news on it to let you all know, hey, he's not going to be ready for week 1. Me personally, I will wait a couple more weeks. I think that you need to take this thing slowly. Now, if he's coming along, he's practicing well, and after this procedure, he's coming along well. Okay, cool, fine, daddy. I'm not going to tell a man what to do, not going to tell a team what to do. But at the end of the day, you don't necessarily have to have him for week 1. You want him for the longevity. You want to allow as much time as possible for him as a offensive lineman, big trenches fella, to get as healthy as possible without rushing him back. And you got some games on your schedule that you can absolutely win before you feel like you absolutely need them. This offensive line is crazy. They had the second team out there in preseason game 1 doing a damn tush push. Come on now. Come on. So you don't necessarily got to rush him back. But, hey, the intended target date for Landon Dickerson is September 4th, week 1. I say we'll wait and see what happens. But, hey, that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of NFL Central. Leave your comments, likes, concerns. Let us know how you feeling about today's episode. Football season is here, and we ain't going nowhere. So make sure you locked in, tuned in, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the bell. It's going down this NFL season, man. We appreciate y'all over here. Make sure you always love football, and y'all already know. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one, for sure.
This has been a presentation